Okay guys, we're back, and today we're doing the install of our K&N Performance Air Intake System. As you can see, this is a complete kit, and we have the new air box, we have the seal that goes around the air box, sorted hardware and clamps, rubber tubes that connect the air box to the throttle body. We have the air tube that goes from the air filter to the throttle body. The good part, K&N air filter, a couple of hoses that connect to our PVC valve, and the attachment for our air filter to our air tube. Okay, this is the GM 5.3 liter V8, and this is the stock air intake system, and basically the same list of components. You've got a air box, an air tube. In this case, we have the mass airflow sensor. We'll talk about this in a little bit. A couple of other tubes that go out to the PVC valve and stuff like that, and to the throttle body, which is right up in this area here. GM uses this really large flannel. I'm not really sure whether they use something this big and bulky on here, if it adds any benefit, or maybe they just think it looks cool. But anyway, it's here. Not saying that it's a bad design. I mean, this is actually pretty good. There's a lot of horsepower in the engine. The air box is sealed and away from as much heat as it can. It gets a lot of cold air from the front and side of the vehicle, and you know, it's easy to service and all that stuff. So it's not a bad design. Just this big piece is I don't know, I think it's a little weird. But anyway, it's all going to come out. We're going to put the new system in. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is kind of get some of these sensors and wiring things out of the way. This is the mass airflow sensor, and this little red tab just kind of pops up, or oops, this one actually kind of popped out. And you just push on that, and this really comes out pretty easily. Be real careful with these, because, you know, these little electrical things are pretty expensive. And then the mass airflow sensor is seated in here, and we're just going to take this out, and again, you know, be careful with it. You don't want to bust these because they are, you know, pretty pricey. There's also two vent tubes that are on the funnel. They basically come out by depressing these tabs here, and you just kind of pop off like this. There's one here, and there's one over here on the other side that'll need to come off. After you get those done, you just want to loosen up the clip down here that holds the flannel to the throttle body, and then we can start to work this off just like that and begin to remove it from the engine compartment. So I found myself undoing the bolt that was there and removing this piece out of the way, and this box, I've already loosened it up, but it really just kind of pops out. There we go. Just like that. There's some plastic tabs here that hold it in place, and you can take that and you can put this off to the side. And next off is to remove the, looks like 1, 2, 3 bolts, maybe 4, that hold the base of the air box out of there, and so we can put the new air box in. So now that we've gotten all of the stock equipment out of the truck, it's time to start prepping the new K&N stuff that we're going to put in the truck. First up is the new air box, and this is a gasket that comes with the kit. This does a couple things that'll help protect this from being a sharp edge and get yourself cut on this. But really what it's for is to differentiate the hot air that's in the engine compartment and the cold air that's in the air box by having a nice thick gasket like this. There's a channel, as you can see there, that'll go, you know, right along the edge of the box here. And you may need to cut some of this off if you have any excess at the end, because this is specific kit that's made for this truck. You know, some of these components are a little generic, so this gasket being one of them, so you may have a little excess cut off, not a big deal. and just kind of fit it on the box just like that all the way around. So the next thing after that is to get the mass airflow sensor into this port. But before you can do that, there's a adapter and a grommet that's got a little peel stick piece to it. The K&N side, logo side, is the top part, the part number with these two little tabs, or the bottom part. And if you stick them on here, you'll know, because they won't quite seat right until you have the gasket on here, and we'll put that on there now. You only can really do this one way, because if you try to do it any other way, the openings won't line up with each other. Take it off to the side there, and make sure you leave these holes open so you can get your screws in here, and kind of line that up just like that. And then before you seat this on here, because it can go this way or it can go this way, and it'll change the direction of these holes, we need to determine which way the mass airflow sensor is going to go in here. And to do that, this opening here needs to face the long stem of the tube where the air filter is going to be at, because the air is going to flow in from the air filter, hit the mass airflow sensor, so all the modules and stuff in the truck know what to do, and hit here with the throttle body. So if I line everything up, and again, be really careful, these things are really expensive if you bust them up. It needs to go that way. And all we got to do now is pop the screws in and secure it, and we can move on to the next step. So once you get this all cranked down, and keep in mind these are all Torx bits, so make sure you guys get yourself a good set of Torx heads or screwdrivers, is to put these on for the hoses we took off earlier. And keep in mind these are plastic threads going into a metal sleeve, so you do want to get them finger tight and just kind of snug them in, because if you try to torque these down, you will you'll pop the threads, and that's not a good thing. So I have to go in the garage and get my tool real quick, so I just got it snug for the moment. I'll come down, I'll tighten that down a little bit. There's one here, there's also one here on the other side, and then we can move on from there. So this is the air box with the gasket on it, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to reattach it using the same screws we took out to where the base plate's at. I think we're only using 3 of the 4 screws we took out, and it's going to go here, and 2 more, one here and one there. And I'm probably not going to be able to do this one-handed, so I'm going to place this in here. It looks like you're going to have to bend it and squeeze a little bit to kind of get around the hoses and stuff that's there. But it's going to go in just the way it's sitting, with the opening for the air filter being right here, so it can go out to the throttle body there in the truck. Okay, so once you get your airbox in there and get everything seated, you can put your 3 bolts in there and get them nice and snug and secure, and you can kind of move on to the next part from there. Next up is to get the K&N air filter ready, and there's a adapter piece that will go in the center here. Now there is a little bit of a lip that's right here, so when you push this down, don't push it all the way down beyond the lip, just get it nice and snug and secure. And then once you get that, we're going to tighten up this clip on here so it stays secure to this. And then you see there's 2 threaded ports there, and that is going to line up in the airbox with these 2 holes here with the screws and washers that are provided with the kit. So the trick here is to take the 2 washers, a locking washer and a flat washer, and your screw, and kind of thread it in here while keeping the air filter where it needs to be. And this is probably the hardest part of this whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my locking washer onto my threaded part. Sorry, I'm off camera here for a sec. Just like that. And I have my flat washer. And I'm going to have to try to get around the camera here, so bear with me. And it's going to go here. And the screw hole. Put my flat washer on there so it's kind of secure like that. Get your fingers out of there without losing it. And gently press. And again, hang on, I have to work around the camera here. The K&N filter up against that and thread it into the hole that's provided, which is about right there, and get it started. Then you can lock her down. Okay, so next up is to get your pieces ready for your air tube. These are made of rubber and they're made to slide over the throttle body. And we have one that's going to be over here for the air box. The one for the throttle body, being this is the 5.3, has a smaller end and a bigger end on the outside. I'm just going to get her ring, the small ring, kind of ready for it there. And we're just going to slide it on real quick. Make sure it's on there snug and all the way around. Otherwise, you'll have a problem later. And once you get that on, you'll leave this up in a spot where you can get to it and tighten it down and stuff. And then we're going to do the same thing for the piece that goes on the air box. See if I can get the camera centered on it. Same type of thing, we're going to get the ring ready on it, just on the one side here. And we're just going to put that on. And we'll come back and we'll secure it. Like that. Next up is to install the air tube. You've done all the work to kind of get everything ready for it. And before you do that, make sure you put the next set of O-rings on the clamp rings rather, onto both of the gaskets we just installed. And you're going to need to run these up underneath the wires. Not wires, but tubing for the radiator here, and kind of give that a good shove in there. And the same here, give it a nice shove so it's secure. And then we can come back, and since we have these on here, I suppose I gotta have these facing the same direction, but not a big deal. We can go and tighten all these up, and we can go from there. Sorry guys, I'm losing a little bit of daylight here, but there's really two things left. And one is to put the hoses back on, just like that. Make sure you get them on real good, because you don't want these popping off when you're driving. And you got the other one here on the other side. And then lastly is to put the mass airflow sensor back into, not the sensor, but the wiring harness for it, back onto the sensor here. Put that red tab back in and ready to fire it up.